Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome to the Old Fashioned Radio Show for March, the year of our insanity, 2021. We remind people, who's we? Me and my competing personalities. Maybe Britney Spears is with us today. I remind people that this is not a 1.25 or speeded up exercise. See, I have to do that because I have this channel. And a lot of people pop up and I have to go, oh gosh, I've got to hear what this person has to say or what this person has to say. And I have to do that with certain channels. But this isn't a 1.25 exercise. You should already be there, okay? We've seen enough. Even if you're relatively new to this pursuit of truth, only come in the last 2 years, you've seen enough. You've seen a lifetime in the last 2 years. You don't need to see anymore. It's time to work on yourself, not trying to suck truth out of channels anymore. What can I get from this channel that's going to present what happened to the side of the Pentagon? We are hopefully all past that. We study the nature of reality when we can have the bridge that leads us to understanding something more about ourselves. So a good example is the movie review I did recently on The Nines. You don't have to see it for the little segment I'm going to present here. In the movie, Ryan Reynolds was a certain type of being, a certain type of entity, and he was lost in the illusion. He was lost in the reality that he created. He just thought it was regular old life, the way we think or thought it was regular old life. Then he started being shown things, the nines over and over, rolling dice, 9, 5 and 4, 6 and 3. What? How many times can you roll a 9? The reality was showing him, he was showing himself. So it's no different than what's happening to us. But it's not just the nines with us. It's 9,000 things that were synchronicities, impossible situations, fake events where we just can't understand how people around us can't see it. Clown show, tuna can launches to Mars. See, we're Ryan Reynolds. We're getting the nines, but it's a 9,000 three-ring circus is coming at us, and we all see different things. But it's 9,000 ways the clown show is getting in our face, reminding us that this isn't very real, and probably in some way we're responsible for creating it. It's not 50 ways to leave your lover. It's 9,000 ways to leave what you thought a real reality was behind. Slip out the back, Jack Kennedy. Make a new plan, Stan. Don't need to be a boy anymore, Roy. You choose your own. You need to be a boy anymore, Roy. Just listen to me. Now check this out. It could be one of these Vanessa VA, truth coming through art again. Truth basically comes through all forms of art. To weirdos like us. Here we go. The beginning of 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. I can't believe it. I just looked it up. The problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically. I'd like to help you in your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave your reality. Message here? Is this really about leaving your lover or leaving a fake reality behind? I think there's as much merit about leaving a fake reality behind. That's the way we crazies see things anymore, and we're probably right. Just hop on the bus, Gus. Gus? You didn't bring your face covering? Get off the bus! So we don't have 50 ways to leave our reality behind. We have 9,000, just relating back to the nines from the movie review, 9,000 ways, and many of which we didn't figure out ourselves. The clown show just showed it to us. You turn around, everywhere you turn around, you open a door, it's a three-ring circus. There's a three-ring circus in here. It's supposed to be a Radio Shack. Let's go across the street. This place is normal as a Yankee candle shop. There's a three-ring circus in here. Oh, you look up at the clock. It says 911. Oh, look over here. There's Joe Biden supposedly standing in front of a green screen. Nancy Pelosi's back as Speaker of the House. Oh, there's another threat of war or rumors of war between Iran and the United States. It's an endless three-ring circus clown show. And we don't need to see anymore. We don't need to see anymore. It's fun to look at, though. At this point, we can only laugh at it and use it to, in some way, better ourselves. Almost 5 minutes into this, do you think there are any haters from 2 videos back? the ones that got upset at me for actually challenging, a nice old man in a chair who would make a prediction that most of the human race will be wiped out. See, a video like that doesn't deserve to be challenged. What was I thinking? Somebody says the end of the human race is likely based on how events are playing out. Who would challenge that? Got to be out of your mind. So I don't think too many of those haters are still with us because they get the sense in this sort of presentation, it's like it's not going to deliver the end of the world news that they so crave, that they so desire. That 15 to 20% of the truth community, they just pull up their subscriptions like, who's talking about the end of the world today? Oh, I get off on it. Oh, who's talking about the next plasma event today? The end of the world's just around the corner. Oh, I'm getting a chubber. I'm going to get off on it. They get off on it. They're addicted to it. Sick, man. Sick. And I would like to remind everyone again, I am highly convinced of this. The reality is the Event Horizon ship from the movie Event Horizon. If you haven't seen Event Horizon, I highly recommend it. And if you don't really like horror movies, it's very well done. Matt's promoting space. Yeah, whatever. Lawrence Fishburne, there's a true theme he's used by the establishment in some way, like Keanu Reeves is used. Lawrence Fishburne, tons of truth in a lot of his movies and leaks and predictive programming and things like that. But the Event Horizon, it's passed through other dimensions. The idea is it's actually passed through hell itself and it's brought things back with it. It shows you your worst fears. So I'm not saying this reality shows you your worst fears, and many times it does, but what I'm getting at is it shows you what you're addicted to, what you want to pursue that will act as a distraction to keep you away from your true self. So I hate to pick on any channels, and I'm not going to mention any names. This person will know that I'm talking about him, and a few of his subscribers might, but it's too important what he went through for me not to present it here. And I'm not going to mention any names or embarrass anybody, but this is a lesson. And I was I kind of alluded to him that this is what was happening. He was looking, all the evidence was pointing to a major event happening to a certain U.S. city. And I'm pretty sure I sent some comments over, or some emails, some personal emails to him saying, the more you pursue this, the more the reality will show you that this is going to happen through the gematria and through all this stuff. And, a major event's going to happen in this city, in this relatively piece of between this week and this week, a major event, a major catastrophe. And basically, we've seen this over and over. The more you pursue this, the more the reality will show you evidence that lines up that that's going to happen. It's the event horizon, the reality itself. It will show you. It shows. I don't know what I can say. So we have a new hobo code, introduced new hobo code today, like we'll introduce new sponsors. We'll say splat Earth. Is that going to get a banner ad underneath? I want to avoid the banner ads. Not that I can't say it, but I really want to avoid those obnoxious banner ads underneath that direct you to real sources of news and information, the real accredited sources, say an academic source. So we'll say, if you pursue the splat Earth, now, I said splat. I said splat. Splat. Like, I don't know, a coyote chasing the roadrunner. Cody realizes he's hanging out over a cliff. He hovers there for a second or two before he realizes there's no rock underneath him, and then he falls splat. I can't say fat. I would like to say fat, but that's too close. So the banner ad would likely come if I said fat. But those that pursue that, the reality shows you exactly what you're looking for. And then if you are a university professor at the University of Michigan and you're an astronomist or a cosmologist at Northwestern University, the reality per its math and its the perfect predictions of when eclipses are going to come and the phases of the moon, the reality will show you that the Earth is something else. And then there's actually a whole host of other people that investigate toroidal Earth and hollow, and the reality shows them what they want to see as well. Aren't we starting to get it yet? We just going to keep applying the knowledge set that's inside, like the bookends that we learned in 6th grade, just going to keep trying to apply. Everything has to fit in these bookends. If you're getting tired of the bookends analogy, I'll give you another one. Hermione in a Harry Potter movie, one of the Deathly Hallows, she had this bag. It seemed like a little tiny bag. You could put like a thing of lipstick in and Tic Tacs, but you could put like the world in this bag. There was like a full tent camping gear, change of clothing. Of course, there's room for the 10-inch dildo. Everything was in there. She had, if you had a flat tire, she could pull a jack out of this bag. It was a magical bag. We have our own bags that we carry, our own saddle bags. If you keep looking in your bag, even though in this example that bag holds a lot, if you keep looking in your little bag for the answer, your bookends of what you think reality is, the answers are not there. Okay, we don't know what it is, but the wise man or wise woman learns very early on in the pursuit of truth that the answers are not in your little bag. That what is in your little bag was put there by the reality itself. It wants you looking in your bag. It's not in the bag. Okay, that's all we need to understand. I don't know how this shit works. It works in ways we'll never understand why we are consciousness inside this avatar. Back to the Deathly Hallows, Luna's father creeped me out. I mean, if I was in that reality, I would try to have, even though I don't really trust these authorities, I would try to have the authorities remove Luna from the home. I didn't trust that creepy dude, you know? It's like if I was at a party with Harry Potter or whatever, he'd come and try to lay his hands on me or something. That dude bothered me, Luna's father. You've heard me a lot talk about in on it and not in on it. You know, one of my favorite topics of all time. Of course, the haters 2 videos back were like, you're always saying nobody's in on it. Of course, just constant misinterpretation, misconstruing what I'm saying. Never said that. But I have said a lot fewer than you think. But it's not as much about in on it and not in on it. Those that are not in on it, it's more about a mind control and something I do agree very much with Tony on, who provides a lot of very interesting and good information to me. This constant will of the reality to drive everybody towards a Borg-type collectivism, to literally create like a hive mind collectivism. And this goes along with whatever magic or technology they're employing to get people. This is also in line with when I say the download. The download, whatever the means is, whatever the mechanism, it's a collectivism where in some way we are connected to others. There's a lot of frequencies we don't see or understand with the senses. We are all collected or connected to others. And if you can get a certain critical mass of people doing a certain thing, then the weak-minded, it becomes a collectivism where everybody will start doing that. You know, the people listening to this, people listening to channels like this part of YouTube considered the crazy wing of the insane asylum, we are not the weak-minded. We are the ones that would go into Jabba's palace, and Luke would be there trying to do his mind control, and everybody, you will bring Han and the Wookiee to me now. And Jabba didn't fall for the mind tricks, and he was like, ha, 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 ha. I don't fall for that bullshit, where the assistant, he was like, you will take me to your master. He's like, I will take you to Jabba now. I mean, he was totally under the mind control. That's the normies around us. We'd be standing there with Jabba, like laughing at Luke, like this isn't working on us. Or we'd pull up in the speeder to St. Isley. Well, that's a weird name for a space port or whatever. Actually, no. Luke and Obi-Wan would pull up in their little speeder. We'd be working it. We'd be working as stormtroopers, but the mind control technique wouldn't work on people like us. Be like, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Like, why are you waving your hand in my face telling me these ain't the droids I'm looking for? I'll tell you, boy, what droids I'm looking for. You wave your hand in my face one more time, I'll break your fingers off. Like Mr. McDowell said, I'll break my foot off in your ass. Hello, King? Yeah, Keem's here, and he's out with my daughter, Lisa. We're not the weak-minded, but the weak-minded around us is it's some mind control / download / collectivism. And once they get a critical mass acting in a certain way, then everybody acts in a certain way. It's very similar to my theory on the download. Again, we don't know the mechanism or the techniques or the spellcraft or the technology employed, but almost everybody that's gotten this far with this presentation, we all agree that the people around us are on some sort of download or spell or something that we can't understand. And it's getting so ridiculous how we can see through the absurd clown show in the presentation, for example, on the news, and people are just buying it and lapping it up. We have to bring in the separate realities back on the table. It reminds me of the Shallow Hal. Shallow Hal, once a gal. Shallow Hal, Jack Black. He saw Gwyneth Paltrow. Now, I would not have used Gwyneth Paltrow as the ideal. She bothers me on a good day, but she was supposed to be, so beautiful, whatever. But the real Rosemary, if you know the movie Shallow Hal, the real Rosemary, a movie like that would not be made today. No way. But she was, I don't know, she was 400 pounds. And you never saw the real Rosemary, just in glancing. You saw Gwyneth Paltrow because Shallow Hal, Jack Black, was brainwashed by Tony Robbins, Banana Hands, Tony Robbins in the elevator, that he's seeing only the superficial in women. He's only looking for beauty. And Hal needs to be able to see the inner beauty. So Tony Robbins says, I'm going to give you a gift, Hal. I'm going to do something very special for you I don't normally do to regular clients. You will see the inner beauty in people. And when you see the inner beauty, you'll be able to get all the beautiful women in the world. And he says, and they'll want you. So, of course, he's brainwashed. He takes a cab with a woman who they've got, when you see her for real, she's made up to be the ugliest, thing of all time. But he sees this absolutely gorgeous supermodel. And the interesting thing is there's two realities going on at once there in Shallow Hal. It's very interesting. His reality is he sees Gwyneth Paltrow. And everybody else, including Jason Alexander, sees something else. And these realities have merged. And only when the spell is broken, Jason Alexander calls Tony Robbins and he's like, I need to break the spell. And he lies to him. He's like, his job's in jeopardy. He just wants his old friend back. He says, okay, you walk up to him and say these words to break the spell, like kissing Sleeping Beauty to wake her out of her illusion or slumber. Just say to him, Shallow Hal wants a gal. And he'll wake up and see the real Rosemary. Well, is there any sort of a phrase? Is there anything we can do that will break the spell? Now, it's not going to be a phrase. It's not going to be Shallow Hal wants a gal. But they're not perfect, these creeps. They're operating on a technology, black magic, who knows? But there could be a formula. There could be a formula to break the spell. It could be through comedy. I don't know. But I'm just convinced these creeps are not as good as sometimes we give them credit, and it just haunts me. There's a formula out there to break the spell on these people, and if they're in a different reality, to move them into ours. And Matt, you want to move people that are enjoying life into your hellish reality? Oh, I better think about that. That's a good way of putting it. Well, I've talked about this in the past. Who's created the most hell? We have in this community. So maybe we should. Maybe, people have yelled at me, Matt, ignorance is bliss. Leave these people alone. You see the hell out your window. Use that to personally better yourself or ascend and to break the cycle of samsara. Use that, but don't try to bring others into your hell. So, but if that was the case, and if we were the biggest argument against that, if that was the case, and we were just by saying to people that this is fake and this didn't go down and this is a fake presentation and this is all false, then if we were bringing people into our hell, the reality would allow more people. It would actually help us to wake people up. The reality itself and the minions would help us wake people up if we were truly bringing them into a form of reality that we've created, the hell realm we've created in the truth community, where everybody's out to get us. And overall, as a collective community, we have everything's sinister. Everybody's out to get us. And there's a lot of truth to this. But see, the normies that float around the mall, they don't see it. So if we wake them up, technically we'd be bringing them into our hell. And just to address it one more time, people that would say to me, and rightly so, Matt, by following along that line of reasoning and following along with those types of assumptions, one could basically conclude that potentially we've created a hell and we're wrong. We've created a lower level. We're wrong, or our interpretation is wrong. And no, it's not. There's too much objective fact on our side. I mean, there's thousands of pieces of objective fact on our side. So in terms of, are we really in two realities? I keep this on the table, but for the most part, we share most things with the normie down the cul-de-sac, or my friend Tony, not the friend. It's funny, the Tony that provides me with the highest level advice on how reality works, and then the ultimate normie, my best friend, who doesn't see anything. He just thinks 19 guys with box cutters, you can go out to any True Value and take over the world by Tuesday at noon. So it's funny, they're both named Tony. Isn't that interesting? But we're not wrong, because I could say to my friend Tony, I could say, in your reality, for months and months, do people that want to see their loved ones at a nursing home have to creep up to the glass, on the outside, and kind of look through glass and hey, grandma, behind the glass? Are they doing that in your reality? Because they're doing that in my reality. And Tony would say, yeah. He would say, yeah, we even went to see grandma, whatever. We just looked at her through the glass. See, it's happening, and there's no situation where that's right. That's the path of a true human being, is waving at grandma through the glass. There's no situation where we're wrong about that interpretation, where that is just sick. There's no chance that, oh, Matt, in the grand scheme of how the cosmic evolution of the human being and spiritual evolution, that's the true path of a human being, is waving to grandma through 3 panes of glass, and you're just getting it wrong. No, absolutely not. So in examples like that, we are not wrong. And we could do examples like that all day long. And even though this is not the platform to be able to talk freely about the sponsors, we can say some things on behalf of our long-term sponsors, like Joe Biden Banjos. If you saw Deliverance, the first scene, the dueling banjos between Burt Reynolds' camping crew and the inbred West Virginian emaciated boy that's never taken a vitamin pill in his life with the beady eyes. That was actually, like I've said before, that was actually Joe Biden. Joe Biden played that role as a young man, and it's quite interesting. Joe Biden Banjos is a long-term sponsor of this program. It's quite interesting that because he was so typecasted as an inbred West Virginia Ricketts boy, he was never able to get another role. See, he was so good in that. He should have gotten roles throughout Hollywood that would have kept him out of politics. We would have a different president today. But because Joe Biden was so good and convincing, he was actually just playing himself, because that's what he really was. He was typecasted, just like Mark Hamill was typecasted as Luke. All he could do was Corvette Summer and bullcrap like that, because that's Luke. You just see him, that's Luke. Couldn't get another job. Roger Moore, that's James Bond. Where are we going to cast him? As the guy dishing out snow cones? So he was typecasted. Therefore, Joe Biden, and he says, I'm going to capitalize off that somehow. It ruined my Hollywood career. Joe Biden Banjos, West Virginia made, available at a discount through this program. Promo code inbred or Ricketts. Let's move on. Let's do a segment and visit this gigantic subject again. I think we've talked about it in a few months or longer. But this is the biggest of big subjects. Is this reality either hijacked by some evil doers, archons or Anunnaki? It's hijacked. This isn't meant to be. Or is everything as it should be? Is everything as it should be? And a first grade truther or a second grade truther will certainly struggle with the latter. Is everything meant to be? What? They put the whole world into a face diaper in 6 weeks. The Bill of Rights hasn't been applied in 100 years. They lie about everything. They steal your money. I mean, was everything meant to be? Yes, that is missed by a first grade truther. But as you get into potentially what is this whole existence for, spiritual advancement, nothing that's worthwhile comes easy. Okay, so we go back to the original example. If this was, there's talk of the golden age. We've heard this in the truth community with the talk of this golden age, and they painted pictures of the golden age, whatever age we're in now. I don't know, Martin Kenny can tell us. Golden age, you just lay around naked, and, the wind blows, you get a hard on, and you eat fruit, and you go make love, and then you read comic books, and it's just everything's provided for. It's a sunny day, the golden age. What would you learn? Now, maybe a spirit goes off and does that, but that's not what this place is for. I'm pretty sure that's not what this place is supposed to be. Do you think? This is like a hardcore, brutal learning session. We're not supposed to just come here with a big bottle of lube and get whacked off. Maybe there's another place where you can go do that. I don't think that's what this place is for. So when you say it's meant to be, yes, it's clear to me that the creeps, the control, whatever you call these creeps, the Nancy Pelosi types, the people that show their big fat face on TV as the Prime Minister of England and the royalty, and all of them we call the minions. In my opinion, they're not aware of their role at the highest level. They're aware of what their little fiefdom is in control of their little bucket. But they're playing a role here, a role so we see it and we better ourselves. I lean that basically this is all meant to be. But there is a hybrid. There is a middle. Somebody's screaming at this video going, Matt, why is it all or none? It could be meant to be a hardcore learning experience where you put in a bunch of jerks, Archons, Anunnaki, whatever they are, put them in, but see, they're outside their contract. They're running wild. They are past what their contract called for. So they were supposed to be pricks, but now they're going too far. They're drunk on power. That's possible. That is possible. So initially, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a pretty hardcore learning experience. It's not supposed to be the golden age lion spread eagle on a perfect beach somewhere. It's supposed to be pretty tough. Now, could they have hijacked it on top of that? And maybe, okay, that maybe. But either way, somebody that leans to that side is still coming from the position that ultimately this is meant to be difficult, which makes sense. I mean, what are you here for? It's meant to be difficult. You go off to be a math major at MIT, a math major, and you're complaining about the certain type of calculus test. And what do you think it would be? You're trying to be a math major at MIT. I think it's 2 + 2. You just whip out your calculator that came in the bottom of a cereal box. It's supposed to be tough. This is supposed to be tough. But people, I mean, how many people realize that outside of this community? I mean, basically nobody. It's just about understanding what metrics this society's determined for you to be a success. Oh, so much money in the bank, 2 sports cars, a beach home, materialism, sexual conquests, 15 minutes of fame. I was once on the mentioned on the Oprah show. I mean, just it lines up all these metrics that says if you do these things, you've been a success in life. And then probably like 5 minutes before these people, their death, they realize that these metrics were bullshit. They don't. You maybe 5 seconds before death, you realize that the matrix lines up. It gives you a checklist of what you need to do here to be a success, and then, like on your last breath, you realize it was just all bullshit. At least we realize it now. As I said in a past presentation, if you're out playing their game on their field, whatever it might be, you're out on their soccer field, but you're playing in their stadium, by their rules, with their referees, you're playing their game, and you look up on that scoreboard and you're winning, you a loser. You've won their game. That's a loser. Okay, you're a loser. And you realize, like, again, your last breath before your death, that I'm out in the field and I kicked ass on this field. I was up by 5 goals. Look, the scoreboard says I'm a winner. You a loser. No, look at the scoreboard. I kicked ass on this field. I came from nothing. I started my own law practice. Then I became a partner at a gigantic law firm, and I was able to buy not just 1 beach home, but 2 beach homes. And I was able to lease the greatest sports cars in the world and cheat on my wife with the finest of supermodels. Look at the scoreboard. It's telling me I'm a winner. You a loser. The guy they talk about in The Last Samurai, who spent a life looking for the perfect blossom. He spent an entire lifetime looking for the perfect blossom, Captain Ogren. It would not be a wasted life. That guy leaps and bounds spiritually over the guy that just traded a bunch of put options and made a ton of money. But see, the society showed him, per the society's metrics of success, how successful he was. The guy that just looked for the perfect blossom, that's all he did. He has a much, much greater spiritual points earned, I guess, on the real scoreboard, not the scoreboard that we're taught to look at, but the real scoreboard. Can I offer you whiskey, Captain Ogren? Ogren. I love The Last Samurai. It is absolutely a remake of Dances with Wolves, but using, instead of the American Indians or Native Americans as the theme. It's centered around basically the indigenous or the earliest Japanese samurai, at least that group with the longest heritage. Very, very similar in how it plays out for the main character, Tom Cruise and Kevin Costner. And it just hit me that both movies take place at about the same time, right after the Civil War, I believe, 18 whatever. I don't think it's the same year. The Last Samurai be a little bit later? I don't know, but it's the same time frame. That's very interesting. I wonder if they ever considered making a third by merging the movies together, maybe some sort of a Brokeback experience between the two characters. But not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. And this is interesting, too. Katsumoto, the samurai leader, keeps his fascination is with the American Indian or Native American. And they even the Japanese emperor asked questions about the Native American. Is it true they fight with eagle feathers and are fierce warriors? Yes, they're very fierce. Interesting. That's tying in the Native American. See, then it's just triple confirmation that this is just 10 years or whatever, the Last Samurai, 15 years later, they put out the exact same message, in this case using the samurai instead of the Native American. Very interesting. But back to the main topic of this section, something that can never be proven, of course, just whatever your personal belief set is. I personally believe that, yeah, it might be slightly hijacked, and they, went outside the bounds a little bit, these creeps, but I think almost everything is meant to be. I really do. It's meant to be, at least for me personally, for my spiritual journey, progression. Nothing easy is worthwhile. If I'm and every month that goes by, I move more towards this philosophy. I've hinted before. If I walked outside and, the stuff we used to follow, all this crazy stuff in the truth community, Nibiru and all this, I write off most of that now, but whatever. If Nibiru comes flying around the side of the sun and it's on a collision course with Earth, Planet X, and I would basically, it would probably be a little scary, but I would basically very quickly say to myself, this is absolutely meant to be. And ultimately, that would dispel a whole lot of fear associated with it. I really would believe if Nibiru flew around the side of the moon, and here it comes, I would say, it's meant to be. It's all part of the experience here, and we'll do something different next time. I really believe that. A lot of young people have approached me over the past year and a half and basically said, now that I see what this is, how do I go off? And I just started with this corporation. How do I continue to do this? How do I continue to be inside this matrix? And two things, like, what's the alternative? Like, they created this system. It's not wrong to participate in it when there's really no choice. How do you get away from it? They created this. We were born into this. Born into original sin, like just born into sin. Oh, we're sinners just from birth. I don't buy that. We were born into this. Okay, so to participate to a degree, there is no avoiding it. I have to go get my driver's license renewed. Tell these people, just as long as you recognize what it is, not feeding it more energy, more attention, more louche, understand this is necessary to put food on the table, participate in the corporate system until you can get out of it. There's little options, okay, unless you want to go live in a cardboard box. The Braveheart slogan is, every man dies, not every man truly lives. Every man dies, not every man truly lives, on the Braveheart movie poster. Of course, not correct today. That would absolutely need to be reworded, but I guess Braveheart was supposed to be 1600 and something, and that movie was allowed to be made. Never be allowed to be made today, completely insensitive. So I'll take it back, and my Braveheart poster from the movie now says, every peer or Z, every Z dies, but every peer or Z doesn't truly live. And that's the advice to these young people. If you're in corporate life, everything here was meant to be experienced. It really was. I don't think robbing a bank and shooting up the place was meant to be experienced. I think there's limits to it. But this place was meant to be experienced. It was not withdrawn from, hide from. I can't afford to give it 1 ounce of my energy. I think on the day of your death, that we call the day of our life, I think whatever aspect of you is talking to you would be like, dude, what did you hit out from it? All of that. It was meant to be an experience. It was all meant to be experienced. At my phase, I'm 50, I'm going into a different aspect of my life. But don't hide from it or run from it, younger people. Experience it. Somebody will sit down on the day of your life or the day of your death and say, dude, it was all meant to be experienced and understood in context, not to be run from. You got a really thick cardboard box and you went off to live on a beach somewhere. No, that's not what that life was for. So go back and do it again. Let's go into another big topic that constantly runs back and forth in this truth community that to me, nobody should spend another minute on it. Is there a group of white hats here? People helping out, people that are ready to transform society, and we're going to we could all then go around the fire and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. It's obvious, guys, what I think. You know what the white hat is here? Boy, take care of yourself. Worry about yourself. Get yourself. Use the tools of this experience for yourself. A group of white hats that are eventually going to open up the sealed indictments, and all the criminals will be marched off to jail and society. See, it's all about even the whole concept of white hats is wrong, because what are they going to do? The white hat's coming to transform you spiritually? No, it's about correcting the ills of society. No more corruption. No more Google Chrome, with the A. No all the. Waiting for white hats to fix society. The entire point of existence is to fix yourself. What about yourself? That's a joke. Anything that you wait for something, even from a religious aspect, is ridiculous, in my opinion. Waiting for that doesn't destroy your religion. I think for Christians, Jesus would say, what are you waiting for me for? Waiting, you were there to do for yourself. I think Jesus would sit down and throw water in your face and be like, what the F? There's no evidence anything was coming to save us, white hats, Jesus, or anything. I think Jesus himself would sit down in front of a Christian and say, you're there to do for yourself. Wasn't that obvious? But you interpreted a couple passages of the Bible in a certain way. We're just going to wait for a savior. Come on, man. It's like a video I have one or two back. There's no evidence of that. There's tremendous evidence that this is a hard spiritual journey that gives us clues. Who knows where the clues came from your God, from your religion, from aspects of yourself. There's tons of clues, like in the movie 9, that tell us things about this world, how effed up it is, how bizarre it is, how not real it is, that ultimately tell us a lot about ourselves, so we can use it and better ourselves, not sit around and wait for some. I'm going to let's pull up another Benjamin Fulford video. He's going to talk about white hats and the white dragon society. He's the sealed indictments are coming, and this cabal is going to be taken down. And come on, dude. It's so obvious. You're here for yourself. The reality is giving you every tool in the world to better yourself. But people sitting around waiting for some white hat or something, or come on, what a joke. We have another segment of the truth community talking about extraterrestrials. Aliens are here from wherever. They're looking out for us. They're guiding us. What evidence? What are they waiting for? Just stay in the shadow. Well, what are they doing? If they can't come out of the shadows, Matt, well, then what are they doing? You have puppet Obama, then puppet Trump, then puppet Biden, and more rights are destroyed, and the sea thing. And I mean, they're literally, these big channels that talk about aliens are here to helping. How? Where? Sorry. We've given you the 10, 20 years. Matt, you should have seen how it would be if they weren't here helping. It'd be real fucked up. Really? I don't see it. I think it's real fucked up now. I don't know if aliens like Jared Kushner can show themselves, then how come the White Hat aliens can't show themselves? If aliens like Oprah Winfrey can show themselves, then let these other aliens show themselves. Has anybody, by the way, since the election, nobody's heard a peep out of this Jared character. I told you he flew home to the home world, the Klingon home world. Considering the Crazy Joe regime is in there now, and again, Jared is likely back with E.T., there's not a lot of opportunity to talk about him. So I guess we'll just one more time for old time's sake talk about him to get it out of our system. Not Jared from Subway. That's a much more reputable character. Jared Kushner, who was in the White House with Donald Trump. This is one of the creepiest characters of all time. I mean, it started right after the election of 2016, Bibi Benjamin Netanyahu, who went to Cheltenham High School, just like 30 minutes from here, right next to Abington High School, went to Cheltenham High School. He comes in and he's like bowing down to Jared. Like, I remember Jared as a kid, and we went to his party and his bar mitzvah, and it's Jared this, and he's like fawning all over Jared. And I saw that and I was like, this Jared must be a species or an entity of really incredible power that spans through the dimensions. If Bibi Netanyahu, one of the most hardcore operatives of this existence, is bowing down to him. If you heard a ring in the background, that was Pam, somebody, my friend who I help, completely stuck in the matrix, as I've mentioned her name many, many times. Kitchen is being redone. It takes months. Oh, the flooring doesn't work. It has to go back. It returns to Home Depot. Constant materialistic things. Oh, what paint color? Blah, blah, blah. And then when she's done the kitchen, something else will get ripped up. And then she just called me. Oh, my car is in. They say I need all new rotors, all new pads. They want to fix the catalytic converter. Blah, blah, blah. $2,000 job. Blah, 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 blah. Just one thing after another after another. It's just, once you fully jump into this matrix, it will plague you like that. And then when the car is taken care of, it'll be something else tomorrow. It's endless. And she is fully immersed in the matrix. And to her, this is just what life is. It's what life should be. Just one weird materialistic crisis after another. So finishing up with Jared, we'll never truly know what he is. I mean, we get the sense that those at a certain level that have inserted themselves into this matrix as a minion level, like a Melvin P level, we're pretty sure that's not the same as you and I. We might be in the same avatar. Maybe they have the same chromosomes, or who knows? But it might be in the same avatar, but spiritually, it's not the same. And you look at Jared. One of these things is not like the other. He's not the same as you and me. I don't, but he's even farther. You could look at like some creep of the system, like Sadiq Khan or something from the UK, and it's like, well, he's kind of like me. But you look at Jared as like, it's kind of a giveaway when if he were to walk in front of you through a garden and all the plants just start to wilt and die on either side of him as he walks through. We don't even need to see that to sense that this is, I don't know, we don't know what he is, but it ain't the same as you and me. Now, I always liked Ivanka. From The Apprentice. She seemed nice. I always thought she was pretty. I will pause now for the Transpocalypse Army, the army, to get their comment in. Like, I've never heard that before. I'm well aware that y'all gonna say that she's packing. Okay, I think I've been. Who are you talking to here? I'm well aware what the Apocalypse Army with the T is going to tell me about her. In my first rodeo here, I always liked her. Doesn't matter. I take that risk. Always liked her, and it was really concerning to me when they got together. She's again from the Apprentice. Like, she seemed kind of normal and nice. So initially I thought, what's she doing with Jared Kushner? How did that happen? Now, of course, once the Trump White House went in, she just was the same old disappointing puppet. I mean, just totally lost all respect for her. I'm saying before that, during The Apprentice, I kind of liked her. Like, she's marrying who? Jared Kushner. What? It just screamed of an arranged marriage, like that little wimpy Longshank. The Longshank's son in Braveheart married the princess from France who became the Princess of Wales, that wimpy little redhead dude. Or it just obviously Jared's not, he's more of a hardcore interdimensional being, not the wimp, although he looks kind of wimpy, but he carries himself like a really hardcore evil interdimensional being. So he's not the same as that little redheaded peep from the Longshank's kid from Braveheart, but it was still just the same. Like, it screamed of an arranged marriage. Like, she doesn't want anything to do with this. But I was like, it's got to be some sort of arranged marriage. Like from Dune, the movie Dune, they're bringing together like things we don't understand and through the cosmos. Like House Abraxas is joining with like House Atreyu, or the house that Sting represented in Dune, or something's going on. This couple don't seem normal to me. No, whatever you believe Ivanka is packing or not. It was like merging the houses to get one up on the spice in Dune. Maybe Jared of House Atreides from Dune is firmly in control. How would you know? If they were firmly in control and controlled everything, which that line of entity is probably always done in this reality, but assuming they just got it done, they would be like, well, of course we're going to have something that looks like an election, and we're going to let this guy Joe in, and now he's going to be a puppet for us. So it's like, just because they're out, well, yeah, they came in, they did what they needed to do while they were in there. Now they're out, but still firmly in control. That's probably the way it's always been. I don't believe that about the Trump. Or he's just the same puppets that they've always been. Just Jared just comes off to me as a different type of entity. It's something we'll probably never truly understand, like sea monkeys. In terms of C the V, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I mean, you see what's happening as well as I do. It's beyond comprehension. It's beyond anything we possibly in this community, the Pursuit of Truth, a year and a half ago, if we would have described this is what the world would look like, every one of us, maybe except 1 out of 100 of us, would have said there's no way they could get that done. Their power does not extend to that sort of range or that sort of reach or extent. There's no way we would have believed it if anybody told us a year and a half ago. In terms of my prediction, I believe was about 85% accurate. I was wrong about the NFL, definitely wrong about the NFL, to emphasize the seriousness of Catch a Wave 2. I thought that they would bring the NFL to an abrupt halt after like week 9 or 10 or 11. And that would really, see, if you bring the NFL to a halt, that would really emphasize the seriousness again of what's going on. And they allowed the NFL to continue through a Super Bowl where people paid $100 to have their picture in a cardboard cutout. There were tens of thousands of cardboard cutouts around the Super Bowl in Florida, and most people paid $100. They paid $100. Now, if you paid $100, now I know we don't like to doom anybody, but a certain doctor does, but in terms of like saying they're completely gone and there's no hope back for spiritual awakening, we don't like to do that. But if you paid, there's nobody listening that paid, but if you paid $100 to have your picture on a cardboard cutout at the Super Bowl, then that might be the official metric. You are spiritually gone, and there is no way back. I mean, what can anybody think of a metric that would be more apt to say there's just no way back for spiritual recovery than that? Somebody that paid $100 to put their picture on a cardboard cutout. That's about as low as it gets in terms of the evolution of a human being. What if the cardboard cutout actually acted like a spiritual Horcrux? If you're actually putting a part of yourself into the cardboard cutout, if you participated in that, kind of like the Star Registry, paying for that. Watch the Black Mirror episode. 2 Black Mirror episodes stand alone. Even if you don't have Netflix, you've got to find a way to see these 2 folks. The USS Carrington, I believe, is one. But the one that's related to this is it's called Black Museum. Black Museum. It starts slow, but the ending, oh my goodness. I'm going to give a little bit of it away, guys. Somehow they've trapped, there's a prisoner, a guy on death row, and to save his family, or to get his family a bunch of money, he's agreed to do this. And a part of an aspect of himself, or a part of his spiritual self, is executed over and over and over again for like all of eternity. And people can come in the museum and take a little trinket, and it's like a little keychain, and a part of him, an aspect of him or a part of his soul is inside the little trinket, where you see like at the end of your keychain, him being like electrocuted over and over and over again for all of existence. It's very similar to like these, if anybody's seen Star Trek, or the new one, not Voyager, Discovery, these pain chambers where you just like scream in agony in this little box, like 24/7, 365. But it's called Dark Museum. And, I'm thinking, I'm joking. And, I want no intention of this kind. This is a joke. No intention of this kind to go out to people that actually spent $100 to get their family put on a cardboard cutout for the Super Bowl. But I'm like, oh boy, I saw, I was like, that's like the episode Dark Museum, where they're Horcruxing a piece of themselves into the cardboard cutout that will later be used at Jared Kushner's discretion, like for his own uses, for his own pleasures. Like that comes to mind, the scene from Red Dragon, the Hannibal Lecter remake. He's like, walk with me. for my pleasure. Andrew Dollarhide or whatever his name was in Red Dragon. He went to see the was it the Blake painting, and then he ate it. He ate the painting because he wanted the Red Dragon inside of him. That's not bad, I'm telling you. All of the Hannibal Lecter movies are very good. Even the one that explains it using the very young actor that Anthony Hopkins is not in. He's young at the time, explaining what happened to him and his sister where he became the cannibal. Even that one is very good. The one with Juliette Moore, whatever, is the worst one, but that's actually not bad either. Although Juliette Moore is just terrible as Jodie Foster's replacement as Clarice Starling. She's terrible. I mean, stick to Boogie Nights or something. I mean, the arrogance of Jodie Foster, like you're in a mega hit and you can't come back and play that character again. It's I need to move on. I'm such a fine actor. I mean, it's all about, maybe she wanted too much money, but it's more about just thinking her S doesn't stink. It's arrogance. And I don't know, maybe, was I in the back room dealings on that? No, but come on, Jodie Foster, just come back and play the part again. The part that made you a household name worldwide. You just can't come back and do number two. We got to put in Juliette Moore. All I see is a Boogie Nights character running around trying to get Dr. Lecter. So for C, the V, my prediction about the NFL coming to an end, that was wrong. The action Jacksonation was pretty accurate. I said February, and it kind of started in February. Initially, I was wrong, thinking they wanted almost everybody to get it. But now, or over the months, we see that they want, if there's 300 million in the United States, I think they want 20 to 25 million not to get it. And mentioned that in the video, two back, talking about the good, kind doctor. But might as well get into more detail here. This is more of a format where we have time and, put your feet back up format to really explore things in detail. Why do they want? First of all, how do I even know that they don't ever want it to be mandatory, at least in the United States and through most of Europe? You will hear stories of certain countries making it mandatory, whatever. That's all going to come. But at least in the United States, it's not going to be mandatory, and they don't want it to be. If they could get their wish, they don't want that. 20, 25 million, 30 million, whatever in the U.S. or even more, unV'd, that serves their purpose in many ways. First off, like I've mentioned, this entire gigantic infrastructure that you've put in place regarding tracking, tracing, huge army, okay, then, we have to keep all that infrastructure in place because there's 20 million or 30 or 35 million that won't do it. We have to, so this whole infrastructure will never go away because of these bastards over here that won't comply. That's an excuse to keep the infrastructure. They always have to keep the infrastructure, though. Department of Homeland Security, just another billion-dollar agency for no reason. Well, it will never go away. No one's ever going to say, nothing's happened, so let's just give that money back to the people. Once they take a step forward and draw a new line in the sand, it never goes back the other way. And if they can get, up to 40 million in the U.S. not to get it or to reject it, then anything bad, any scenario that's bad that comes, they can blame that group, of course. I guess we're putting the cart before the horse, saying everything they would get out of having tens of millions of people not get the V. Someone would say, well, why are you so sure they want that? We're pretty sure that they want that many people not to get it because these adverse effects make the news very easily in some circles. Okay, it might not be on the CBS Evening News as the lead with Norah O'Donnell, but trust me, if they wanted 99 point whatever percent, they wanted almost 100% compliance on the action Jacksonation, you'd never hear in any source of media, you'd never hear about an adverse event. Never. They would seal it up. Matt, they don't have the ability to seal it. Yes, they do. They have reality buttons and levers that are beyond our understanding at this point. We're not going to go back and revisit the lack of videos on the 7-Eleven job application. We're not going to go back and revisit that. They would seal it up tighter than a frog's you-know-what. The fact that everybody knows about adverse events and this and that, and Dr. C is allowed to speak all over. He's got hundreds of thousands of views. They would never. They would seal it up. They want. Okay. You have who's it? Is it was it Robert Kennedy? One of the Kennedys is a big anti-V. I mean, there is no more establishment than the Kennedys. You think for 1 second, I believe, is it Robert Kennedy's out there looking out for us? Are you kidding me? It's part of the general script. It's all you need to see. And say, well, why do they want a good percentage not to get it? We know that. Okay, the Melvin P. character, the Melvin P. Gates, he's been demonized on purpose. He's got creepy pictures all over the place of him smiling with his needle. Come on. That's all put out by the system, by design. So 40, 50, 60, 80 million people go, that guy's a real creep. Now, half of those people are still going to get it. But the other half are like, well, the fact that they think he's such a creep will be used as a reason for them to be skeptical of the V. He's a caricature that's demonized on purpose. Not because he's just, even the way he flails his arms around and everything, it's all an act. So a good percentage of the population hates him and thereby hating the message. It's obvious. So, okay, so I was wrong initially that I thought they wanted full compliance. And what that means is it's not all about, a lot of the truth community thinks it's all about the V. Like the V will doom your soul. Everything is about the V. And I believe that initially on. I'm like, it's all about this golden God. It's all about, but it's not all. That's a component. But now we see that the face covering is not. I don't know if it's just as big of a component, but I almost feel it is just as big of a component in the overall delivery of the ritual or the compliance. The V is a component, like the face covering, of several things, all to move a human being in society into a certain place. So I was wrong about that. I thought, it's all about the V. Oh, gosh, in terms of weight, in terms of what they need to get done, it's 99% is all about the V. And now, I think there might be 4 or 5 parts to this, with the V being one part of it, one part of the greater ritual being laid down in humanity. So I was wrong about that, and I've backed off that a bit. Most of the other predictions I made were pretty accurate. I'd say, again, 85% correct, 15% wrong. Let's talk about Mars. Get your ass to Mars. Get your ass to Mars. Just imagine that if you were just stuck with that repeating loop like Quaid was. Get your ass to Mars. It just repeated all day long. You jump out of a window. Speaking of out of a window, if a little old woman lives next to you right now in your apartment complex, you're on the 10th floor in Chicago. If she threw her toaster out the window right now, I believe that toaster got closer to Mars than anything that JPL sent. I think it's 100% a joke. I don't even believe the planets are what they're described as, these big rocks floating around up there. I just don't buy it. I don't think anybody could ever get to a place like that, could ever land on it. And I like to return to, what are you basing that on, Matt? What are not, the people here see through it, of course, but if anybody just, if I was leading with this topic and they were stumbling upon this video, like, what are you basing that on? Well, a lot of things, but the easiest thing to base it on that nobody goes anywhere other than the ridiculous presentation of the caricature of Elon Musk, whatever that, he's along the vein of a Jared Kushner, not as sinister, but probably from the same home world. But I thought you said nobody could go anywhere. They can. He's an interdimensional time traveler. I don't know what Elon Musk is, but he's creepy, just like Jared. The best evidence of all time is the Viking missions. I mean, the Viking missions, a lot of even people in the truth community aren't aware. After 7 Apollo missions, of course, through, I don't know, they stopped going to the moon early in 73, of course. They stopped pretending to go to the moon in 73. You have these Viking missions to Mars, like a year and a half later, 2 years later. I know before 1975. So then they sent 2 missions to Mars, Viking 1, Viking 2. Both got successfully to Mars. Get your ass to Mars. And then a little mini craft came off and successfully hovered down. Now, this is in the mid-'70s or early '70s. So wait a second here. Wait. You needed all these trained astronauts, like they showed us in The Right Stuff, guys that could just blow into a little tube and hold that bubble. They could float that bubble, for a minute and a half. And John Glenn and what Gus is saying here, it's not about pea, it's about monkey. They needed these pilots, and of course, as Neil Armstrong was lowering himself down in the Eagle to the surface of the moon, and buzzed cauldron is in the back of the LEM. He's got his Pabst Blue Ribbon empty cans all over the place. He's not much help back there. But there was supposedly only 30 seconds of fuel left, or 45 seconds. It was so close. There was only 45 seconds of fuel. Neil, land that thing, buddy. Oh, we're so relieved you got it down. We had like 1 second of fuel left. It was so, you needed the guys. Remember all the stuff that Tom Hanks had to do to get in that the fiction of going to the moon with his other co-stars. Did I say Matt Damon? I guess I meant I don't know what I said, but with Tom Hanks. He's always on my mind if I said Matt Damon. Remember what's his name? Kevin Bacon had to stir the tanks. That caused the problem on Apollo 13. All it did was stir the tanks. Well, men have to do all this stuff, but then 2 years later, they can get just 2 years later, in the early '70s, they can get a completely automated system all the way millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of miles farther, and not just have one success. I guess it would be more believable if they sent 10 of them and 9 of them just crashed somewhere, or one didn't even make it out of the atmosphere and just burned up and crashed into Paris and took out the top of the Eiffel Tower. But no, they sent 2, and they had 2 successes. Both successfully landed on Mars. But you needed all these guys to do things like stir the tanks, but then 2 years later you didn't need anybody. Okay, maybe they had a world-class breakthrough in technology in the early '70s. Let's just say. Then when Elon Musk blasts off in SpaceX and the JPL and all this stuff that they did in the early 2000s and the 90s and rovers, why is it such a celebration then? You see, even now with Perseverance, is that its name? Oh, they cheer and they stand up and they hug and stay 6 feet apart. And they cheer like it's the greatest thing of all time. How come somebody doesn't turn around and say, what's the big deal? But NASA sent 2 of these out in the early '70s. They both successfully landed on Mars. I mean, why are we even cheering? The '70s, dude. It's almost 50 years, and you're acting like this is some big achievement. That is the absolute, by itself, you don't need to know anything else. That, factoring in the absolute joke of the Viking presentations, that's all you need to know. And if anybody coming forth saying, well, Matt, maybe they did fake Viking in the early '70s, but that doesn't mean it's not real now. No, they lied about that, but now it's absolutely real. Yeah, that why didn't I think of that? The Viking missions in the early '70s could actually be more ridiculous than Voyager 1 and 2. And 2 missions come in pairs. Of course, it's all by design. It's all part of their creepy symbolism. What exactly is the message? I don't know. I don't care to know. It's like if I sniff the fart, I leave the elevator. I don't need to know. Who did it? I don't need to know. I just leave the elevator. I can sniff it out. It's always in pairs. Who knows? Creepy symbolism. What kind of entity has to constantly do business using creepy symbolism all the time? All the time. That you would think then doesn't that make the symbolism part of its very nature, its very structure? Without the symbolism, it can't exist. Well, Matt, without people like you noticing the symbolism, maybe that's essential to its sustenance. Maybe we'll learn that someday, but for now we're just going to point it out. But the Viking missions could be more ridiculous than Voyager 1 and 2. I mean, Voyager, I think even today they say they're still sending the signals back. The thing's supposedly billions and billions and billions of miles away, and the signals somehow reaching the dish. Now, I've talked about this a lot recently. We have to go over this again, but it's so mind-boggling how anybody could believe this that, I don't know, you almost can't talk about it enough. You almost can't talk about it enough. It is that ridiculous. Well, we're on the topic of space. How ridiculous will the SpaceX story get? I mean, every single time one of these things goes up, it launches, it's the same script every time. It launches like 40,000 Iridium satellites out the side. They show the same camera angle over the engine. There's been a few times recently there was no mouse or rat running around the engine. I mean, it's the same script every time, cheering millennials, obnoxious hosts. I'm really surprised that Elon's what is it? Their center there, platform 39A. Why did they need 39 platforms in an A? Why didn't they just make it 40? And why do you even need the first 39? Well, they haven't hired Vintage Space. Now, can't you see Vintage Space, the Vintage Space chick, being perfect, blending in with those other obnoxious millennials, giving the play-by-play on how the video is about to be interrupted while the stage one returns upright and lands on one of the two barges. Really cutesy names, like one's barge is called I Still Love You, or something like that. Whenever it's cutesy, it's fake. That's all you need to know. But I can't believe they haven't hired the Vintage Space chick for their crew of obnoxious millennials doing the play-by-play on the SpaceX launches. So what's next from them? Would anything surprise you? They just threw a sports car into a billion-year orbit around Mars. Nobody questioned it. Nobody questioned why the tires didn't, from the vacuum, either didn't immediately explode or at least, I don't know which way it would work, the vacuum. They would either be crunched down into nothing, like a Mack truck running over an empty box of Tic Tacs, or it would be the opposite effect. The rubber would explode. Either way, the vacuum on a regular tire, and Elon Musk was like, we didn't change anything for that car. That's the regular car. The vacuum would be such that one of the two things would happen to the tires immediately, but people just watching it float around out there thinking it's completely real. So nothing would surprise us in terms of what they're going to pull. Remember the rover that was designed to operate on Venus from Steve Austin, the $6 million man? There were two hardcore nemesis opponents that the $6 million man, things that when you were watching as a kid, you weren't sure if he was going to survive. I mean, you were really scared for Steve Austin, the $6 million man. One was Bigfoot. The Bigfoot fights were epic and truly scary when you're 7 or 8 years old. The other was the Venus rover. The Venus rover was hardcore, man, and you really thought he was going to die. Now, if Elon if the design was the exact same as the Venus rover that fought the $6 million man, would anybody be surprised? That is the level of the clown show. Remember the rover, all they did was drop down the first scene in the animated movie Heavy Metal. All they did was recreate it, but without the space shuttle doors opening up. Everything else was completely recreated from the first scene in Heavy Metal. So if they recreate the rover that's supposed to be on Venus that fought Steve Austin, I'm not going to be surprised. If I told you if Nibiru comes around the mountain when she comes tonight, I'm not going to be surprised. Nothing surprises me at this point in this clown show, three-ring circus. It's funny as shit. Almost every time I mention the Vintage Space chick, there's somebody that writes me an email or gives me a comment that I'm being mean to an ex-girlfriend. It's a joke. I mean, literally almost every time. Matt, why are you being mean to an ex-girlfriend like that? Or you shouldn't really talk about what? When I say she comes down my driveway holding the boombox above her head playing the Your Eyes from Say Anything, I'm not serious about it. Although, if she called me for a date, I wouldn't go. She was kind of fine like 5 years ago, but went downhill quickly. But I would like to debate her. I mean, if we could do, it would be like a combination date where they would follow us around like Naked and Afraid. And then a debate, like over the whole night or over the course of the debate, over the course of what's supposed to be like a dating show, a constant debate over every single course of the meal, over the merits of the Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury missions, me just going back and forth after the soup, the salad, course 1, course 2, the sorbet, the dessert. That is something people would want to see. In space, I was going to say SpaceX, if you're listening, I'll debate the SpaceX people too. Vintage Space, if you're listening, if you would like a date debate with me, I would really like to do that. Or if you really want to go bold, we could do a Naked and Afraid Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral version. Just send us out there amongst the platforms, naked and afraid, try to start fires under the platforms, try to survive between SpaceX blastoffs. I don't know, and constant debating the merits of the space program or how absurd Voyager is, just some camera crew following us around. You would Naked and Afraid Cape Canaveral. Is it Cape Kennedy or Cape Canaveral? I don't even know. I guess, I don't know. Who cares? Who cares, right? While we're on this topic, whatever happened to the Space Force? Whatever happened to the Space Force? Da-da-da-da, come to save the day, the Space Force. What happened to the Space Force that came out like a year and a half after the Trump administration? All this talk, weeks and weeks and weeks. Well, okay, it's been 3 years. What are the results? What have they been doing? What have they been doing with $1 billion of your tax money? Well, do we even have a launch or a blast off where the Space Force was going up to do something? What are this space fence that they talk of, this Lockheed Martin space fence that they've been talking about for 3 or 4 years prior to the Space Force? If you look it up, the space fence or the space net or whatever thing, it's called the space fence, is being serviced and is under the auspices and control of the Space Force. What? I think they figured out you could literally say anything to the American public. And do you have to show a result? No. Do you have to show anything? Do you have to show anything blasting off saying this is what we're going to do? You don't have to do anything. You just say it exists and people believe it. I guess you go right up to the point. You could go right up to the point where you would say, should we present Kermit the Frog as the new Brigadier General responsible for Space Force? Well, that's be going too far. Right up to the point where you present Kermit the Frog as the Brigadier Air Force General responsible for the Space Net and the Space Force, right up to that point, you can say anything and people will believe it. They won't ask for a result. They won't ask for anything that impacted their lives. They'll just believe it. I had to pause and look it up. I mean, this is right from the Lockheed Martin website. Today, the orbital region known as low Earth orbit, and they call it LEO, low Earth orbit, it's crowded with active satellites. It's also cluttered with millions of pieces of debris, thanks to frequent collisions and deterioration of defunct satellites and rocket boosters in Kim Jong-un's exploits, and it doesn't say that. Traveling at speeds upwards of 15,000 miles per hour, that debris threatens not only communication satellites, we depend on everything from weather forecasting to global banking and GPS navigation, but also military assets that help monitor and protect the nations of the world. Is that what the U.S. is doing in Afghanistan, protecting the nations of the world? Man, they're rooting out terrorism. The U.S. Space Force's newest radar system, the Lockheed Martin Space Fence, is designed to detect, monitor, and characterize objects as small as a marble in low Earth orbit. As small as a marble. They can find it. What's the size of the anomaly coming in? It's the size of Texas, Mr. President. Okay, guys, you get into I don't know what to make of this, okay? You know what I think? I don't think anybody blasts off and nobody goes nowhere in their tuna fish can. So if anybody's screaming at me going, well, Matt, there's got to be 10,000 people at Lockheed Martin that work on this space fence. How could it possibly be fake? I don't know the answer to that. I don't understand how this reality works in a lot of ways. There's a lot here going on that we just simply will never understand. I don't know. I'm of the impression that nothing goes anywhere. There ain't no big-haired ladies flying around up there waiting for the next Viking capsule to deliver the next supplies of Aquanet. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. With tens of thousands of people working on these projects, I don't know how they pull this off. It's beyond our human understanding. It's what's his name in Dangerous Liaisons, John Malkovich. I'll just say it over and over. It's beyond my control. It's beyond my understanding. I don't know, but I don't think my spiritual development is not impacted one iota, whether I understand this bullshit or not. The whole reality is breaking down as some form of fake, and that's all I need to know. That's all you need to know. But Matt, don't you want to spend the rest of your natural truther life trying to understand the legitimacy of Space Fence and what's real and what's not and what's fake and what go up? It doesn't matter. No. When you get to a certain point, you don't need to look into it anymore. I remember Space Fence years and years ago. What are they saying about it? I read it. I don't ever want to look at it again. I don't give a shit. I've written the reality off as some sort of fake illusion, a manipulation, a gigantic deception to pull a human being away from spiritual self. And that's all I need to know. The specifics of any one thing, if you decide to research it, just see it as a hobby and you look at it and do it for fun, like kind of the way we're dealing with this radio presentation, we're having a lot of fun with it, then that can be fun. You release some stress. We don't need to know these things. It doesn't have one bit of impact on how you decide to develop or not develop your spiritual self. Remember, the overall tactics it takes and how it plays a human being, like uses and abuses a human being. It's kind of like the mysterious nature of how this reality works and what it does. I just thought of another parallel. I'll describe the Star Trek episode if you're not, most people will not be familiar with it. I think it's season 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation. Yeah, this goes back to like 89 or something. The Nagila episode. The Enterprise, it's the Captain Picard, Jean-Luc Picard, the bald captain. They're sucked into some sort of black void. And the black void turns out to be some sort of an entity with consciousness. This creepy face shows up, and it's going to experiment on the crew. And, it's playing games with them. So they travel at warp, and they're just getting nowhere. There's no way out, no matter how far they travel. It's very similar to the Mobile Ave scene in the second Matrix, or it's the beginning of the third Matrix, where Neo runs down one side of the subway tunnel, and he just comes right back in the other side of the tunnel, like Pac-Man, right back to where he started. No way out. No matter how far you run, you just come back in the other side. So that they're trapped in this entity called Nagila. But Nagila, he'll open up the walls, the sides, and he'll show stars that the captain recognizes, and it looks like a way out. So they shoot for the way out, and then he closes it up. And then over here, look over here, Captain Picard, here's another way out, another tunnel. All through all this black, we can see stars. Oh, it looks like a tunnel out. Let's point the Enterprise that way and we'll warp out of here. And he closes it up. And then eventually Picard's like, this thing's playing games with me. And that's what this reality does to truthers. Oh, just when you're like, nah, I'm not going to look at that anymore. Oh, it'll show you a little something. It'll say, oh, come investigate this or come look into this. Oh, here's some new information on space fence. It's what the reality does at the metaphysical level or the quantum level, the ways we just don't understand. And we're finally learning, at least small segments of this community and the truth community are finally learning to stop chasing it and stop even looking at it unless it's completely done for fun. Some people are just in love with the bizarro files of the Debbie Does Dallas Daily Plaza, and they're going to continue to look into that. And it's just fascinating how all of those breadcrumbs have been laid down and structured to get people looking in different places and saying who done it in different ways. And when to me, it's clear nothing happened on that day. It's a guiding light set, or an As the World Turns set. I think it was actually As the World Turns they broke into for CBS to announce this is a CBS bulletin. A bulletin, a CBS bulletin. Well, Matt, that's going a little far. A bulletin, the word bulletin has been associated with news for hundreds of years. There was even the Philadelphia Bulletin. That was the name of the paper. I'm aware of that. It's just how the reality does business. What a coincidence. You break into As the World Turns, the soap, with a CBS bulletin, a bulletin Kennedy. I mean, are you kidding me? It's how the reality does business. It is a absolute, I don't know. It's wondrous. It's fascinating. And it should always be seen as wondrous and fascinating instead or before depressing. Unfortunately, a lot of the truth community, it's the other way around. It's constant. You see the dark side. Oh, it's just depressing. That should be the last thing. It's fascinating. It's wondrous, especially if you see things like the Mandela effect. The reality just changes in front of your eyes. I don't get upset at that at all. Vanessa VA hosts these videos, fearful and angry Mandela effect videos where people, when they see it, they don't get out of bed for weeks. When I thought it was the most fascinating thing of all time. All of this stuff gives my life and existence, or not because I'm presenting a channel, but anybody that sees what we see, as dark as it is, it provides more meaning. It provides incredible evidence that you're way more powerful and important than you thought. It's to me, overall, it's very uplifting, not depressing. Yeah, it's depressing. I'd like to go to a concert at some point without, I don't have my medical passport. All that is depressing, and what they've evolved our family and friends into. Yeah, it can be depressing, but overall, it's fascinating. It really is. It's fascinating for us, but we'll close with not the greatest news for the people around us, which ultimately affects us and is a little bit depressing to us. But I see this is like the final test for people, what's happening now. I mean, honestly, if you're just bowing down, not you guys listening, but if people around you are bowing down to everything that's being said and suggested and putting the information that comes on the world news ahead of their personal experience, the information that comes on the world news will talk about hundreds of thousands of Cs and new outbreaks, but then none of the people around them have anything, and it's just not consistent with what's happening in their hometown. And they're just bowing to, the CDC recommends to put 2 on or 3 on or 4 or put 7 or 8 of them on top of each other, and people are just bowing down to the next recommendation. That's the end. That they will never, in other words, they've failed. They've failed the life test. There won't be, in my opinion, there won't be another opportunity for them to come out of it, to wake up, for lack of better words. It just kind of hit me the other day, like this is the last chance, in my opinion, for people to see what basically this whole reality is all about. And if they're not seeing it now, and starting to push back a little bit or starting to ask certain questions, that they won't get another opportunity. Now, I guess a lot of people rolling their eyes going, well, Matt, we kind of came to the conclusion a few years ago in this community, you can't wake anybody up. Okay, I hear you, of course, but this is the last chance. If they're bowing down to this now, forget about it. I mean, they have merged with the reality. They are riding that wave. About a year and a half ago, in a really great comment, I forget who left it, person basically said, the reality or whatever's behind the screen here wants to get to a certain place. It has a plan that's beyond long term, and it needs to move itself forward with a certain type of individual. It wants a certain type of molded individual, mostly hive mind, collective. It wants a certain type or breed or human being, not 2.0, probably 10.0, to get on its bus. And once it determines that everything's being sorted out, it will move forward with probably 99% of people that it wants to move forward with, that will accept its new terms, its new technologies, its new hive minds. We are on a cold bus stop in the rain without an umbrella. It will be difficult. It will be difficult, but we'll get through it. They can't pull a gigantic lever and change all of reality overnight. Everything, the way things are done. Okay, they can't turn the Titanic around on a dime. I feel very sorry for the people that see what, I wouldn't want to see what Matt sees, with Matt talking about himself again in the third person. I wouldn't want to see what I see at like 20-something, because it's like that. I don't care. I'm 50, I've done all of the, I don't want to just sit around and rock back and forth on a porch, but I've done all that stuff. I don't, in other words, I don't feel I'm missing anything. But if you're 20-something and the reality is moving to this place and you're like in our camp and you don't want to get on the bus of where it wants to go, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate for the youngsters, but it's not hopeless. It really isn't. It really isn't hopeless. I don't know. They can't pull a switch on the beauty and the heaven that will always be here. I mean, cat jumps on my lap. There's beauty there. I walk down into the park. There's beauty. There will always be beautiful things in this reality, and enough beauty. They won't be able to stamp that out in our lifetime or in many, many lifetimes. And they can't turn the Titanic on a dime. So, we're not getting on the bus, and the bus stop's going to get cold and wet. It's going to be difficult on us. You need the medical passport and all that to travel. It won't be easy. It will not be easy, but it is not, I don't think it's anything to get depressed about. And ultimately, again, you can't trap water, right? Water will find a way through a crack, or it can't totally screw us over. I mean, we will find ways to connect with each other or start, like we talked about, live together in certain communities, or basically, take over Rust Belt towns where 1,000 of us move in. How many friends do we need? I mean, I don't even want more than 10 personal friends that I interact with in person. I mean, how many friends do we need? I'm around no like-minded individuals, nobody I can talk to at this point. No, but I don't, people will reach out to me in this area or whatever. I just don't have the time now. My fight is doing what I'm doing now. But when this is all said and done, and we've done all that we can do, I would like to get together and interact with real human beings again. And I think, it'll be like a brotherhood. This community or the non-V, it'll be like a brotherhood. You'll have more friends, more camaraderie with people because of the situation we're in. It's like when two Marines meet, there's immediate brotherhood and connection. And one would immediately help the other change a tire or in a difficult situation. It'll be like that. I mean, it will be the non-V by itself. The non-V, the non-action Jacksonation will be a brotherhood in and of itself. Now, should we get tattoos so we can identify to each other? I don't know. But there's good news in the end. I mean, how many friends do you need? You need 10 like-minded individuals around you to have a pretty good life. 10 people that you call friends who see things the way you do. You don't need thousands or whatever. And it'll work itself out. Those people will find each other as this plays out. There could be bars and restaurants that have a night for the lepers, a night for the non-Jacksonated. There could be, but the more we're isolated, the more we have a camaraderie with those people. It'll, again, I've told this story. It'll be similar to this. There wasn't a lot of blacks or African Americans at Penn State when I went in '92. There wasn't, but if I would get on a bus and there'd be one black person on the bus, and say there's 20 white people. If another black person got on the bus, they would acknowledge each other. Okay? That's natural. That's normal. Okay? They didn't know each other. They would acknowledge each other. If I was, working on the outskirts of Guangzhou province in China or something, maybe they have more expats there than I know, and some other obvious American got on with like a I Love Texas t-shirt, we'd acknowledge each other. See, we'll acknowledge each other. The lepers, the non-V, we'll acknowledge each other. We'll have more friends than we know what to do with because of the situation. There's not going to be 100 people that are outcasts in the country that aren't going to get the V. There'll be like 20 million. So there's some hope at the end of the tunnel. All right, let's just take it one day at a time. And thanks for listening. Next one will be on Free Voice on Sunday. Free Voice on Sunday.